I want your thoughts on who Colorado could potentially be looking at right now, Marc. But I want to throw a name out to you first, and then you can toss out anybody that you want. That's the great part about a coaching search is see where everybody's heads are at.
Sure.
Wisconsin just fired Paul Chryst. He had a wildly successful run while he was there. He's something like 67-28 as
72,
Wisconsin's head coach.
72% winning percentage.
He won 72% of his games in the Big Ten at Wisconsin. That does not have, much like Colorado, and this is key, a huge recruiting pool right in his backyard or even anywhere close to it. Nor does Wisconsin have the sort of national name brand recognition that, say, a Michigan would, right? You can get some good players out of Michigan, but it's not an Arizona, a California, even a Washington now, a Texas, a Florida, any of those sorts of states. But Michigan has that sort of brand power, but it's certainly a lot stronger than what you've got at Wisconsin. And still, the Badgers have been a perennial 8 to 10 win team. They've played in a couple Rose Bowls. They had a 12-0 season that was derailed by Ohio State a few years back. Like Paul Chryst won a lot of games. I think he's like their third all-time winningest coach, ironically, behind Brett Bielema, who just came in and smacked him as the head coach of Illinois that led to his firing. That name, if I'm Colorado, that's intriguing to me. What do you think?
You can do worse, right? Especially
Yes.
for Colorado. I mean, it's not like they are literally taking the low-hanging fruit right now. If it's there and you can work something out, he would definitely be right there at the top of the list. But here's a name. If not Eric Bieniemy now, when? I guess if
does he want to come back to Does he want to come back to college though? Because that's the question you've always got to ask.
Does he want to be a head coach?
That's true. That's true. But adding recruiting into the mix, when you've been at the NFL for so many years, there are a lot of coaches who look at that and go, no way.
Okay, well, you know what? If you want to be an NFL coach, and for whatever reason why he hasn't been yet, maybe you spend a few years rehabbing your alma mater. You show them what you can do and say, hey, now tell me why I can't be an NFL head coach. I took a hot pile of garbage and I made them an 8, 9, 10 win team in 2 or 3 years. At Colorado, why not? But again, you got
That's intriguing.
Yeah. I was doing some quick research. They're throwing out the names out there. Bill O'Brien.
I think that'd be a great hire. I don't know if he would go to Colorado. He certainly wouldn't stay. When you're a head coach at Penn State and then in the NFL and you come back and you're going through the head coaching rehab program that is Nick Saban's assistant, your sights are set on an SEC job because think of Lane Kiffin, right? Didn't work out at USC and other places, whatnot, goes to Alabama, and his first head coaching gig is where? FAU. Then he gets the Ole Miss job and is an SEC head coach. I think a guy like Bill O'Brien, I don't know that it'd be a bad hire if you could get 3 really successful years out of him and just reestablish a more successful brand for Colorado football. Even if he's not going to be a guy who stays for 5 to 10 and have a great run of success because he might have his sights set elsewhere, I don't know that that's the worst idea. Again, you could do a lot worse than that, but Colorado might also be looking for a guy who's in it for the long run.
Well, like you said, I think Colorado has to go with an offensive type of identity. So that's why I'm focusing on. I think that's why we're focusing on the names we are. What was the name skipping my head right now? But who was the coach at Colorado? It's not intramurals, brother. Exactly. Right.
Oh, I'm gonna look it up.
So, anyways, if you want to bring back a personality, somebody who's going, maybe the fans will come back and want to watch as well because he's going to give you that Mike Leach effect. You never know what he's going to say.
Dan Hawkins is the name you're looking for.
Dan Hawkins. Bring him back. Why not? At Colorado, it's such a unique place. I don't know if you've ever been to Boulder, but
I have.
It's a different place, but they like their football. Yeah, they love their football. But if it's not good, There's plenty of other recreational stuff ideas to keep you involved, and you need somebody who's serious about football, somebody who's going to want to make you come to the games. I think he would be one of those guys. And again, Eric Bieniemy, I think this would be the perfect opportunity. There's nowhere to go for this program but up. And
that's true.
You know what? He can't make it worse.
That's true. There's an advantage to the Colorado job I'll tell you about after I remind you that if you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you're depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. I had one earlier on the golf course today. Fantastic, and it keeps me going. They are delicious, and the newest flavor, of course, is indulgent cookie dough covered in chocolate. Built has done it again. Cookie dough chunk puffs have a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course, 100% real chocolate as always. Only 160 calories and a whopping 15 grams of protein. Go get yours now. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCKEDON15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKEDON15 to get 15% off your next order of Built Bars at built.com. So the upside of the coaching search right now for Colorado, and I know it sucks for Buffs fans because this is bottom out so hard and it's ugly. It's not just 0-5, it's an ugly, uncompetitive 0-5. The upside, and I don't know if you necessarily make this pitch to coaching candidates out there, but you're not expected to win right away. You cannot be expected to come in with where this program is at right now and win right away. And I think that's at least somewhat of an upside for Colorado as they embark on this coaching search. Is no coach, and the administration can't go looking for a coach and say, yeah, we need you to win 4 or 5 games in year one. Like, no. In year one, right, I think looks a lot like Arizona's rebuild. They won 1 game last year, just the one. They had an embarrassing FCS loss. And guess what? Jed Fish is still there, and Jed Fish is 3-2 going into week 6, playing host to 12th ranked Oregon in a big opportunity, right? But the patience has to be there. And I think the administration should communicate that. Like, we expect you to come and make the program better, but we are going to give you time because of where this is at right now. I think that's something that is going to work, or potentially could work, in Colorado's favor as they look for the next football coach.
No, absolutely. Look, there's certain expectation levels at different programs. At USC, you're given very little latitude to get your program back to where it belongs.
Right.
Lincoln Riley knew that, and that's the approach he's taking. At Colorado, the next coach is going to come in, and he knows he's going to have at least 2 to 3 years to get his culture started, to get his players, everything established. But again, that's the separation between a USC and a Colorado. Same thing with an Oregon and a Colorado. You don't get the same amount of time at programs that are expected to win now. So, again, I'm going to stick with Eric Bieniemy. I think he should be the guy.
I think Bieniemy is a decent name to throw out. Before we came on and started recording, Marc, you threw out Justin Wilcox, which I don't know that it'd be the best hire. I don't know that it'd be the worst hire either, because if you're talking about cultures that are all in on football, sure, Colorado is above Cal.
Absolutely.
That's not disputable. They sell that place out. That opening night game for the Buffs against TCU, that environment was awesome. It is a bummer that the team is not good, because that environment was fantastic. Students, community, alumni, donor, like everybody showing up to that particular game. So you can pack that field in Boulder, and you can't do that at Cal. And the question for Justin Wilcox has always been, does he just need better support around him? I'm not saying it's a massive step up from Cal to Colorado. It could be a minor step up at the very least. But I also know that he just got a big extension with the Bears, so it's unlikely that he'd go somewhere. But I do think that's interesting. I want to wrap up, Marc, and talk about Arizona State for a couple minutes, because they too are in this position. And I think whoever comes in there, again, Bill O'Brien could be a candidate who may not stay for the long term, but yep, would you take 4 years, averaging 8.5 to 9 wins a year with a 10-win or an 11-win season mixed in there? If you're Arizona State, yeah, I think you would. But are there any names that jump out to you for that Arizona State job? I've heard this is more tied to the Colorado job. Former Oregon offensive coordinator Marcus Arroyo, who's the UNLV head coach right now. Let me just shut that down. I don't want to see that name circulating. I'm sure he's a really good guy. I've never heard anything to the contrary, but that is not a name that should be getting tossed around here. And I've seen that specifically for the Colorado job, his name on a list of candidates. I saw it and I said, no, you got to aim higher than that. But for Arizona State, where do you think the Sun Devils are looking?
Oh, you got to go prime time. Would you go after Deion Sanders? Would you go after Deion Sanders?
Yes. Of course I would. Here's why. Arizona State has a little bit of flashiness to it, more, right, I think, than Arizona. And part of that is they're in a desert state. They've got a big party atmosphere at the school. They're not that far from California. I would absolutely take a look at Deion Sanders. I will admit I don't know how Jackson State is performing this season.
Does it matter?
Yeah, because you got to have someone who's proven he can win consistently. You want someone who's going to be able to come in and not be learning on the job.
He's proven he can recruit a couple of 5 stars from Florida State to commit to Jackson State. That's what he's proven. I think his record is not relevant, whatever happens to Jackson State, because you're going to have a few really good players mixed up amongst players who probably don't get D1 looks. Maybe some of them should, but they're not they're not Power 5 level players. What would Deion do at an Arizona State? We can recruit.
Yeah.
Can he put together?
He can recruit.
But can he put together a staff? Or is he just going to go to all of his ex-NFL buddies and say, hey, let's see what we can do here together?
Yeah, and I think that might make Arizona State fans a little bit weary, right?
I was just going to say, Herm Edwards tried that.
Yeah, we just had the NFL experiment. I don't know if we want that. Deion feels a little bit more college than Herm Edwards. That felt like you placed a. I'm trying to think of a good analogy, and my brain is blanking right now. But you placed an alien in the middle of a bunch of humans, and you hoped he'd be able to assimilate, and it just didn't work out that way. Also worthy of note, to my point earlier, Jackson State's 4-0 this year. They were 11-2 a year ago. They were 4-3 in his first season in the COVID shortened year in 2020. So the on-field results have been there. You have to imagine the recruiting would be there, and it's kind of a logical next step for Deion Sanders, unless an SEC school were to come calling, or an ACC school we're trying to lure him over there. You go from an FCS HBCU, right? Jackson State's is an HBCU. You go from that to taking a step up to the Power 5 level and going to the Pac-12. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I think O'Brien would be a great candidate for either of these schools, but I don't think Deion would go to Colorado, but I think he would consider Arizona State. It doesn't have the richest program history, but it's far from the worst, and I think you could win there a lot faster than you could at Colorado.
To your alien analogy, I don't know if you're familiar with the old show Third Rock from the Sun, John Lithgow and those guys.
I sadly am not.
All right. Well, anyways, they were aliens in human form that were just dropped in a college atmosphere, believe it or not. He played a professor, and they just didn't know any better. They would do things that humans would do, but they didn't know they were doing them the wrong way. It was always ironic. So Herm Edwards he had no idea that you weren't supposed to host recruits during a COVID season.
And he didn't
he knew that you were supposed to do. Right. Yeah, he knew you were supposed to recruit. He just didn't know when the right time was.
Yeah, and he didn't understand how far back an NCAA investigation can set your program and set your recruiting. And by the way, I think more so at Arizona State than at Colorado, you need to be prioritizing someone who could come in and recruit. I think Colorado, you're never going to be a top 20 class nationally, most likely. You could probably get into the top 40, maybe even the top 30 from time to time. But I think you need someone who knows how to get the most out of his players and the guys that you can bring up there to Boulder. But at Arizona State, the recruiting potential is top 30, maybe 20, but probably around top 30, maybe top 25 nationally. And you need someone who can do that, because they have as much as Colorado has bottomed out on the field, Arizona State has bottomed out off the field in recruiting. It could not be any worse. I think all those names are quite fascinating, Mark, and we're in agreement that not going to be the USC guys, because there's a lot of names that are being thrown out there. We'll continue to discuss them here on the show. Marc Kulkin, at Marc Kulkin, a C at the end of Mark, a K, and then another K in his last name. If you want to check him out on Twitter, he's the host of Locked On USC Trojans. Appreciate you coming on the show and talking about the ever-evolving coaching carousel.
Anytime. Appreciate it.
I appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and have a wonderful rest of your day.